My friend, we have just passed through an emotional storm. In the previous part, the synagogue was thick with tension, the deadly silence of the Pharisees, the eruption of Jesus' anger, dark schemes forming in the shadows, and moral boundaries being drawn with terrifying clarity. But now, let all that noise fade into the background. Turn your gaze to the center of the room. There stands a man. He has just heard a command that seems impossible. Stretch out your hand. And in the bravest moment of his life, he obeys. He stretches his crippled arm forward. Instantly, life rushes in. Tendons loosen. Blood begins to flow. The withered, shrunken hand suddenly becomes full, warm, and strong, just like the other one. Scripture records it with striking simplicity. His hand was restored. Mark 3-5. Just a few words. No description of blinding light. No thunder shaking the heavens. And yet, my friend, what happened there was far more than the healing of a body part. It was the restoration of a human life. Today, in Part 7, we will no longer focus on the opponents. We will devote our full attention to the hand and to the act of stretching it out, because perhaps, right now, there is also a part of your own soul that has become withered, a part that longs to be stretched into the light so that life can flow again. Let us speak about the withered hand. In ancient medical language, it refers to muscles that have wasted away, tendons that have tightened, causing the hand to curl inward and cling close to the body. It loses its ability to grasp. It loses its strength. But in spiritual and psychological language, withered becomes a haunting metaphor. Withering is the process of pulling inward. When a tree lacks water, its leaves curl up. When an animal is attacked, it curls into itself to protect its most vulnerable parts, and human beings do the same. When we are wounded, judged, or rejected, our instinctive response is to withdraw. We pull back our trust so no one can deceive us again. We hide our emotions so no one can hurt us again. We shrink our dreams to fit the acceptable limits society allows. The man in the synagogue lived with a hand forever hidden inside his robe. And you? What are you hiding? Is it a talent you fear will be mocked? A grief you fear will be labeled weakness? Your true self, which you fear, may not be accepted. In one way or another, we all carry a withered hand within us, a part of the soul that has stopped growing, that has dried up from a lack of light, from a lack of acceptance. And here is what is strange, almost unsettling, about the way Jesus heals. He does not say, "Show me your good hand." He does not say, "Do something easy." He says, "Stretch out your withered hand." Jesus asks the man to do the very thing he fears most, feels most ashamed of, and finds most difficult. Why? Because you cannot heal what you keep hidden. A wound needs air in order to heal. The soul needs truth in order to be set free. If the man had refused, if he had said, "Lord, this hand is too ugly. Let me show you the other one instead," the miracle would never have happened. Healing came only when he dared to expose his weakness to the light. This is a profound therapeutic truth. We often think we must get better, become stronger, become acceptable before we dare come before God or open ourselves to others. But God says, "No. Bring me the ugliest part, the weakest part, the most withered part." Healing begins with vulnerability, with daring to admit that we are not okay, with daring to admit that we need help, with daring to stretch out the self that has curled inward so that grace can reach it. The word Scripture uses for this healing is apokatistemi, to restore. It means to return something to its original state, to give it back its rightful place. The greatest miracle that day was not that muscles filled out again. The greatest miracle was that dignity was restored. For years, that man had lived as a cripple, a burden, a sinner, punished by God. According to the beliefs of his time, he lived with his head bowed. He lived on the margins. But when Jesus called him to stand in the middle of the synagogue and healed him in front of the most powerful people present, he was making a shocking declaration. This man matters. This man is worthy. This man is a child of God, whole and beautiful. When the man's hand stretched out and was restored, he did not merely regain the ability to work. He regained the right to stand upright, the right to look others in the eye, the right to exist as an equal human being. That is the ultimate purpose of the Sabbath and of every authentic religion, to make human beings whole. Any system that leaves people feeling small, worthless, perpetually guilty, that system is moving in the opposite direction of God's restoration. Look more deeply at the image of the hand stretched out. A clenched, withered hand is a closed hand. It cannot give, and it cannot receive. It is a symbol of isolation and self-defense. A healed hand is an open hand, open to connect. When his hand was restored, he could shake hands with others. He could embrace those he loved. Healing broke down the wall of isolation. Open to give. He could work. He could contribute. He could help. From being a burden, he became a builder, open to let go. A tightly clenched hand often holds pain and resentment. Stretching out the hand is also an act of release, releasing past wounds, releasing shame. Jesus heals us so that we can move from a posture of clenching control, fear, to a posture of openness, trust, love. My friend, are you gripping something too tightly right now? A past hurt? Money? Out of fear of scarcity? A relationship that has already died? Jesus is inviting you. Stretch out your hand. Relax your grip. Let my life flow through you. There is another way to look at healing, one we often overlook. In the context of that synagogue, the man's healing was an act of resistance against oppression. The Pharisees wanted him to remain disabled, at least until the Sabbath ended, in order to protect their law. They wanted him compliant, silent, and frozen in the status quo. His healing was a direct slap in the face of that system of control. A person who is healed, who is free, is the hardest person to control. When you are no longer afraid, no one can manipulate you with fear. When you know your worth, no one can crush you with guilt. That is why spiritual healing is always revolutionary. When you step out of depression, when you break free from deep insecurity, you are not only changing your own life, you are challenging the assumptions around you. You become a living witness to the power of freedom. The Pharisees were furious because they had lost control over him, but he no longer cared. He had gained his freedom. Before we close this part, I want to invite you to do a small exercise right now. Look at your hands. They may be physically healthy, but look inward at your soul. Is there any hidden place within you that has become withered? Is there something you long to say but keep swallowing out of fear? Is there love you want to give but pull back because you're afraid of being rejected? Now imagine Jesus standing in front of you, right here, right now. Not with eyes of judgment, but with eyes of encouragement and deep trust. He knows you are afraid. He knows how much the past has hurt you. And yet he says, do not be afraid. Stretch out your hand. Try it, either in your imagination or with a simple physical gesture. Open your hands. Open them to receive the new day. Open them to forgive yourself. Open them to believe that you are worthy of happiness. Healing is not about going back into the past to fix every mistake. Healing is about allowing God's grace to flow into the present, to fill again the places that have grown dry. The man has been healed. He walks out of the synagogue with a new life. But our larger story still has one final chapter. After everything we have journeyed through, from the debate in the wheat fields, to King David, to the declaration of Sabbath authority, and finally to this miracle of restoration, one question remains. What will we take home with us? How do we live this Sabbath spirit in a world still full of pressure and rules? How do we keep our hands open without being wounded all over again? Part 8, the final part of this series, will answer that question. We will talk about establishing a lasting inner Sabbath, a kind of rest that no one can steal from you. For now, simply enjoy the lightness of relaxed hands. You have been healed. Live as a free person.